Hey, do you want to know the fastest line around Charlotte Dirt Track in a Wing 360 Sprint Car and iRacing? Not just in qualifying, but also in the feature? Not only that, how would you like a setup that you can actually go out, set fast time, and win with? Well, if all of that sounds good, then stick around, because right after the intro, I'm going to be showing you the setup I use, the line I run, and exactly what to do so you can go out and win your official race in the 360 at the dirt track at Charlotte. So all of that's coming up right after this. What's up, everybody? Thomas Brandon here. Welcome to another School of Sim Racing video. Now, if this is your first time joining me, welcome. And what we do here is we typically do videos that help you improve your racing in iRacing, I guess would be the way to say it, and particularly on the dirt tracks. And today we're going to be looking at the winged 360s at Charlotte. Now, we are in week 12 of season 2 at the time of recording this. We got a few more days before the vaunted week 13 comes. And if you've been having some trouble in the 360s at Charlotte, this is the video for you. Now, I actually won a race earlier this week. I dominated it. And then I had another race that literally everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I got wrecked out of my heat race. I got wrecked out of the consolation. It was just all bad. So I've been on both sides of the coin this week. And in this video, I'm going to show you the stuff that works, okay? The things that work. Now, if you get crashed out like I did in the second race, that doesn't matter what your setup is. You know, sometimes bad luck just happens. But the stuff that I'm going to show you can work. And I know this for a fact because it has worked for me numerous times. In fact, it was this week, it was this race in season 1, week 12 of season 1, where all of this School of Sim Racing stuff got started when I first shared the video on how to set up these sprint cars. And since then, my knowledge, discoveries, and more importantly, my driving skill has greatly improved. And so if you've seen the other videos that I've put out and you're thinking there's not going to be much new, well, guess again, because I've actually got some stuff to show you. So let's head over to the garage and take a look at the setup. Now, first things first is when it comes to the base setup here at Charlotte, what I like to do is I like to run a lot of stagger. And I actually like to run a lot of stagger at all the tracks. We want these cars turning themselves. We don't want to have to be putting a bunch of wheel into it. So we want these things turning themselves. The way that you do that is with stagger. Now, the stagger that I like to start with at Charlotte is 13 inches. And as you can see here with the tire pressures and my stagger, we've got, you know, right front at 12, left front at 11, rears at 10 and 8, and then 13 inches of stagger. Now, over here on the chassis side, we've got a pretty typical base setup. And what you can see here on the torsion bars is we've got 10 1/4 on the right front and right rear. We have thousands on the left. Now, if you want to be getting yourself a pen and a paper writing this down, do it, okay? Now, along with that, we've got 1 turn in the right front, 3 turns in the left front, with a 5/4 shock on the right front and a 4/5 shock on the left front. Now, here in the rear, we have negative 0.5 turns in the right rear with negative 2.5 turns in the left rear. We got this thing sitting really low, and in fact, I'm going to drop the fuel down for the qualifying run. I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to drop the rear end down even more. On our left rear shock, we have a 4.7, and on our right rear, we have a 6/4.5. Wheel spacing is at 18 on the right rear and 13.5 on the left rear. And then for our bump rubber and packer, we have 500 pounds and 2 inches on the shim. Now, we're going to take this down to 3 gallons for our fuel because we're going to do a qualifying run. I'm going to drop this down to -3 and -1. And so that's going to get our ride height set for our qualifying run. Now, I did a few laps just to make sure that this was, you know, dialed in and that I got the track state to about where we've seen qualifying for the 360s this week. The track has been pretty used up come qualifying. Usually it's somewhere between like 15 and 20%. The track has been really slick this week. And you can see a 13.4 is what was my fastest lap on my qualifying run. So pretty good. 13.4 would be when I set the pole earlier this week, I think I turned a 13.44. So I mean, we're right in line with that. 13.443. Now, when you are qualifying at Charlotte, you want to make sure that you've got your wing all the way forward. You want to make sure that you are wide open on the bottom and smooth. The groove on Charlotte, when the track is fresh, is on the bottom. You need to make sure that you get in under this slick and that you get out under the slick. All right, so let's run a couple laps and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Get the car in, let it drift up. You don't want to be bogging it down. Turn it in, let the car rotate on its own, let that stagger do the work. Right there, I rotated it a little too much, got sideways coming out.
You've got about 5 laps of fuel.
And there would be our qualifying run. And if we look at our laps, I don't know what I just turned, but if we look at the laps, let's see. So 13.5, that last one I got really sideways, 13.7. Now, one thing that you can do is, and I probably should have done this, was move that right rear end a little bit because the track is starting to slicken off some. You could have also dropped the bump here on the right rear shock, moved that in, and that would have been a little better adjustment, probably helped a little bit on the entry because, like I said, the track has been really slick this week, so you want to do everything you can to avoid that slick and make sure that when you get to the center, you're not over-rotating the car, okay? So that is the qualifying. Now, I know for most of you, qualifying in heat race is not really a problem. The problem lies in slick tracks when we get to the feature. And we're going to look at that next. So let's head over and take a look. All right, so now it's time for the real fun, okay? Dry slick. And as you can see, we've got ourselves a really nice dry slick track. Now, I set this at 60%. If you're running an official race that has a consolation, the track will probably be close to this at the start, between 45 and 50, maybe 55%. If there's no consolation, it might be a little bit less, but the bottom line is once everybody starts running on it, this track is going to slick off, and it's going to slick off quick. When you run races during the daytime with these sprint cars, particularly 360s and especially the 410s, you're going to notice that the track slicks off really, really bad. And you've got to be able to not only handle the car, but know where to drive the car, know where to put the car on the track and how to set it up for it. Okay, so let's dive into the garage here and let me show you what I'm going to do to tackle this track. Now, the first thing is we're going to drop our stagger down to 12 inches. Okay, remember, stagger helps the car rotate. And a lot of people confuse loose, right, with not being hooked up. You see, we want the car hooked up. And sometimes you can actually have a loose race car because you're too hooked up. All right. You can also have a loose race car because the car is too tight and you're breaking it loose, getting it into the corner. We don't want that. And if you take too much stagger out, what's going to happen is the car's not going to want to rotate easy enough, and you're going to have to put too much wheel into it, and the car's going to actually snap loose. And once you do that, you're screwed. So we don't want to take too much out. So I actually like to run with about 12. 11 and a half also is somewhere that I'll also put it. Anywhere between there is fine, okay? Next, we're going to come over here, and first thing we got to do is we got to put fuel in the car. Now, 19 gallons is what I've been running for the 30-lap features in the 360s. And remember, caution laps don't count, so you can't just try to shortchange the fuel and hope for cautions, okay? Like, you can't be doing that. Caution laps don't count in the 360s, so you got to make sure you've got enough fuel. 19 gallons puts us at, I think, 35 laps. And some of the 360 races I've been running have had like 8 or 9 cautions. So that extra gallon is okay. All right. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is we need to stiffen up the front, okay, and soften up the rear. And so I like to actually put 10 1/4 bars across the front. You can even go 1050 on the right front. Either one is okay. What I'll tell you is the stiffer and the higher you jack up that right front, the tighter the car is going to be all the way around. But it can also make the car feel real twitchy, and a lot of drivers have a problem with that. So don't make this too stiff. If you go 10 and a quarter, 10 and a quarter, you'll be fine, okay? The other thing that we're going to do is we're also going to increase the bump, or excuse me, decrease the rebound on this right front shock, increase the bump over here, and decrease the rebound over here. We want that weight to transfer to the rear when we're on and off the throttle, okay? Next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop our bars in the rear. Now, you can actually go basically anything 1,000 and below, all right? I actually have been doing a lot of reverse split as of late on slick tracks. I have found that to work really, really well. One thing to be wary of, especially at a track like Charlotte, the softer that you make that right rear bar, the more violent the car is going to be when you're running the top. Now, Charlotte can get really, really bumpy around the top. And so if you go throwing a 950 in the right rear, understand the car will be hooked up, but it's going to be a rough ride. So don't go putting yourself in a position where you're going to be slamming into the wall because you can't control it, okay? I literally ran this setup and won with it, all right, and dominated every lap of the race. So you don't have to be super aggressive, okay? Keep that in mind. Now we're gonna also change our right rear shock. I'm gonna put a 4 on the bump and a 6 on the rebound, and I'm gonna bring in this right rear to 17, and I'm gonna move out the left rear out to 14. Okay. Now, one last thing that we have to do is we have to fix our ride heights since we have all that fuel. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jack up this rear end. And I want to have it at 14 on the right rear and 12.5 on the left rear. Now that's pretty close. I'm going to leave that right there. I've got 45.3% cross weight. That's good. I haven't been running a lot of cross weight. And since this track is really fast around the top, all right, I'm going to be making my car a little bit more right rear dominant. Now, keep in mind, you've got that big wing on top, which is going to be pushing down on the left side. So you're going to have a lot of left rear dynamic weight. So just because you don't see it here on the scales doesn't mean it's not there when you're on the gas, because it absolutely is. Okay, so let's run a few laps here and see what we got. Now, really quick, one thing that I recommend to drivers, especially when you're on a track that's slick like this, and you have just raced your heat race, or maybe you just raced the consolation. Now you're going to be in a 30-lap feature, and you're going from 8 gallons of fuel to 19 gallons of fuel. Your car is going to feel so loose going into that first corner with all that fuel. What you want to do is move that wing back a couple of notches. I do this, okay? Some of the best drivers I know do this. Get through the first turn. Don't go sliding up and taking out the car next to you, or you know, wadding up the cars behind you, because you're all over the place. Move your wing back a couple of notches. I can guarantee you you'll be glad that you did. And then what you can do is after you run a couple of laps, if the car feels stable enough, then you can try moving it up one notch and see how it feels. And if you can still drive it smooth, wide open, right, move it up again. You don't have to just put it somewhere and keep it. Okay, that's not the way that it works. That's why we get to move the wing. You constantly get to adjust that thing as much as you want. So let's turn a few laps. And where you want to be is you want to put that right rear up in that cushion. You want to get it up in the cushion. And you really got to be patient. You can see I actually smacked the wall there. You really got to be patient, because if you turn too early, you're going to end up getting really sideways in the slick. And then what's going to happen is you're either going to back it into the wall or you're going to spin out. And as you can see, I'm running wide open right now. And the track is starting to get a little rough up there on top. So the car actually feels pretty good. So I could try to move the wing up one notch and see how that works. Let's give that a shot. Move it up one. Feels pretty good. That knocked a 10th off my lap time. Now, one thing about running the top at Charlotte is that a lot of people think that you have to be wide open, and you don't. When that slick gets all the way up and that cushion is literally right up on the wall and it's getting bumpy like that, you can roll out of the throttle and still turn some really nice consistent lap times. For example, in the race that I won, I was actually rolling out of the gas to about 50%, and then I was just getting back into the throttle. So I'd roll out a little bit on the entry, get the car set, and then get back in. And I was still doing really, really well. I was pulling 2 and 3 second leads on second place. So you don't have to be right on the ragged edge. When this thing gets up here like this and this track gets bumpy, it can be really, really hard to navigate. Remember, you have to finish the race in order to win the race, okay? So if you're just going to go out there and try to bang it off the wall, all you're going to do is wreck yourself and someone else around you. All right? Now, how about on the bottom? I would actually recommend running the bottom with the wing back a little bit. So I'd put the wing back to probably -2 if you don't have it back already. And what you want to do when you're running the bottom here is you want to get the car in, roll out of the throttle, and then rotate it, and then get on the gas. You're really wanting to make sure that you're getting that car pointed out underneath the slick. Because if you go in too hot and then you try to do something, you're going to slide up into the slick and now you're just spinning tires. So it's much better to roll out, get the car pointed in the right direction, and then get back on the gas. Okay, just like that. See how I'm doing that? Roll out, wait till you're clear of the slick, get back in the throttle. Roll out. All right, you're just rolling through the corner, getting it pointed in the right direction and getting on the gas. Now lastly, if you want to do a slide job, you have a couple of different options on this track. So you can go the traditional route, right, which is where you kind of you go down and you slide up in front of them, like, you know, halfway, 3/4 of the way through the turn. Or you can actually run a slider line on this track where you will get in front of them on the straightaway. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. All right, so let's say we're going to throw a slider on somebody. All right. So we got it. We're going to come down. We're going to get this thing rotated. And then we're going to slide up in front of them. And you're going to do it nice and easy. The really nice thing about doing a slider in that situation like that is that if they try to undercut you, they have to go through the slick. See how that works? Because in order for them to undercut you, right, they got to go down, which means they're going to be in the slick spinning their tires. So even if you let off the gas to get up to the groove so you don't run into the wall, they're going to slow down because they're in the slick. And so now you've not only cut them off, right, cut off their momentum if you get in front of them, but you've also made them go down into the slick, and that's going to slow them down considerably. So that is how you can run Charlotte and have some success. All right? And remember, like I said, write down that setup, you know, take some notes, use it, because it works really, really well. Like I said, this was like a 60-something% track. So it'll work. It'll absolutely work. All right? The key is hitting your line, being smooth, and being consistent. Okay? So that's going to do it. Now, really quick, do me a favor. If you like this, please hit that like button, and then also make sure to subscribe. And when you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when I put up more content. With the new season coming up, I got a ton of stuff. School of Sim Racing, right, it just literally started. It's 2 months old. It is maybe 3 months old now. It has not been around very long. We are just scratching the surface on all of the stuff that I'm going to be doing, that I've got planned, and all the stuff that you can use and take advantage of to better yourself in iRacing. So you don't have to keep dealing with all those douchebags and tools out there, right? You can actually go out and beat them yourself on the track. So if that sounds good, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And then finally, if you want to actually get training from me, get my setups, get stuff like that, head over to Facebook and ask to join the School of Sim Racing private Facebook group. And once you join that group, you'll also get access to our Discord server, and that will let you in on all the information, including our league. So if all of that sounds good to you, then head over and do that. But otherwise, that's going to do it. So until next time, as always, I want to wish you good luck, good racing, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.